You are now listening to Nexxlegacy Radio, a radio station for the people.
The guest that I have is not necessarily a guest, a good friend of mine, but I think we should definitely pay attention to the words that he says and celebrate his accomplishments over the years. And not just that, just listen to a lot of the game that he's about to talk about this morning, about just the entertainment business and being an artist and how that artist needs to develop if that artist is going to be something more than a 15-minute walk on the wild side. So this man right here, Mr. Angelo Ellerbee, is definitely one with a whole bunch of knowledge, and he is my guest this morning on the AM Buzz. Mr. Angelo, what's up, man?
Hey, man, how you doing this morning? Let me say hello to all of your listeners. Hey, I appreciate y'all taking a minute, the time out of your busy day just to tune in and listen to my brother. I think what he does is serve a community with a worth of knowledge, and I think we all need to not just listen to me, but listen to the show on a daily basis, man. I appreciate you.
Man, you know, wow, that's big words coming from you, man. I appreciate that. That's big, but I mean, you know, to me, I always feel like a platform like this is always fueled by people like yourself, because, you know, we go a little ways back now. I mean, as many times as you've been literally behind the scenes a part of a handful of my shows, man, I mean, it kind of goes without saying. Well, I'm going to say it and put it out there publicly for all the people out there that does listen. Like, you know, Angelo is definitely a person, a go-to person for me over the last, I want to say, couple years, for a lot of the development and helping out with guests and doing all kind of different things. So, man, I mean, you know, you say that about me, so, you know, it's that good boomerang, man. I got to bring it right back to you and say thank you for all that you've done, too, you know?
Yeah, man, but I want you to understand that as brothers, in order for us as a people to begin to win in this race, we have to be collective, and we must support each other's endeavors. We cannot be haters. We must be lovers of everyone's accomplishments. And so it becomes important for me that I tell somebody about the goodness in which you bring to the table. And then you can tell somebody about the goodness in which I bring to the table. That's what this world is to be about. That's what our culture is to be about, is raising. You know, my mother used to tell me that it takes a village to raise a child, one child, and truly it does. It takes a village to raise the minds and the intellect and the intelligence and the awareness of our young brothers and sisters, so that they get a clear understanding of the work ethic and what it takes in order to win, not just in music, but in the world over. Just as a layperson, it takes a work ethic. It takes a dedication. It takes a commitment to win. And when you're winning, you want to share that winning and share that winning with someone else that can win by it as well. So, yeah, man, I think it's really important that we begin to be reciprocal in our plight, that we begin to give back and share knowledge. Knowledge is the gold mine of our future.
That's right. You know, and even before I've been on doing radio for 6 years, and even before, you know, I can remember, I always kind of had that. Well, I was a witness to it. I mean, as far as what you just said about that, it takes a village mentality, not just on a business platform, but of course on a family platform. Growing up, and you know how it was when we were growing up, man. Like, you know, if you got in trouble when you were a little kid, your neighbors used to, you know, knock on your mom's door and straight tell on you and just be like, hey, he or she was not doing what he or she was supposed to be doing, and you felt the wrath of that. So, you know, we need that back in the worst way, not just on an entertainment platform, but also on a family platform, because the family values kind of seem to have, you know, is not as appreciated as it was back when we were growing up, and of course before then. So it's important.
I think that is. I agree with you, man, totally. I think that is what's taking place in the music industry. You know, we fought for the freedom of an independent record labels to establish our independent record labels, and I think it's great. I think it's great that we're able to cut out the middleman and continue to move on and make our profits in the whole of the bit. but we can't cut out the tender loving care of our artists. Our artists need to be guided. They need to have that artist development person, someone that is going to teach them and motivate them and care about them. Those are artist development is so important to me. As I reflect back to the 50s and the 60s, when Berry Gordy started his fight with Motown Records, our music was looked at as beach music. Our music was not even being played on the mainstream airwaves. Our artists, our people who look like you and I, could not even be a part of their own album covers. Our music couldn't even be heard. They would give it to someone else, someone of another color, to sing our music. So he thought about the importance of creating non-threatening artists. And the color black was threatening in that day. I mean, it was called racism in a big way. So what he did is that he said, when you're in Rome, you do what the Romans do. When you're in America, you do what the Americans do. And thus he implemented an artist development program that taught them diction, speech, mannerisms, dress, how to walk, how to talk, and the music reflected the same style. Now it became non-threatening because we were a part of the American society. Thus, this is what born my entity called Artist Development and Double Exposure's Artist Development Program. It's important that we understand where we live at. And it's also very clear that we understand how we must win in this. We don't win by fighting. We win by compromising. And the compromise is that we're living in America. And so living in America, we have to do some things that Americans want us to do. And so what we now have is longevity for those artists of the 50s and 60s and 70s. When you speak about Patti LaBelle and you speak about Aretha Franklin, you speak about the Four Tops, the Temptations, and Diana Ross and Dionne Warwick, these people are still around today because someone took the time to motivate them and to educate them and to stimulate them with an awareness of existence in the marketplace. And that's what it's all about. So it goes back into raising that child.
Indeed. Angelo Ellerbee is our guest on the AM Buzz. No, that's game, man. That is definitely good game. And, in addition to discussing a little bit more about artist development, as far as your track record, I mean, you've worked with a handful and continue to work with a handful of celebrities. So tell the listeners about not just the people that you've worked with, but also some of the things that you're doing as far as being a media coach and all the different things that you are doing, not just under the public relations and artist specialist, but, everything else that you do as well.
Let me just give you somewhat of an overview of my roster history. There was Genuine, Mary J. Blige, Tyrese, Keith Sweat, Nona Hendrix, Kool and the Gang, Case, Music Soul Child, Al B. Shore, Drew Hill, Jade, Shy, Christopher Williams, Brenda K. Starr, Calvin Richardson, Melville Moore, Alicia Keys, The Barkays, Horace Brown, Angela Winbush, Roberta Flack, Jocelyn Brown, The Emotions, Rome, Ron Isley, Changing Faces, Intume, Melissa Morgan, SWV, DMX, Coolio, Benzino, Big Daddy Kane, Salt and Pepper, Eric B., Slick Rick, Craig Mack, Corrupt, Chubb Rock, Luther Campbell, Poor Righteous Teachers, DJ Jazzy Jeff, Shabba Ranks, Patra, Rita Marley, Damian Marley, and Junior Gong. I mean, that's just a tip of what would be a hint of the kind of clients that we have dealt with. But then I go into the pop side of it all. I go into producers. I go into executives, and also dealing with the corporate side of it. I mean, that's the history of Double Exposure. And still today, I enjoy what I do, but I'm more into taking that young artist and molding them and training them. I think that we are at a deficit in this day, in this time within the music industry. I think that our artists must begin to understand the importance of their mere existence in selecting the correct team. We have young people like Chris Brown, who's extremely talented, but the team of people around him are so afraid of him that the truth is on strike. They're more concerned about getting that check and making sure that check is not stopped, as opposed to bringing him in and educating him and telling him how he must fit in the structure. and that he has a fan base that is following him and people who are supporting him, and he serves as an example for others. And so if we don't begin to organize and try to prevent the bad things that are happening to our young artists, they fall astray. We got to remember that this is not our America. And we have to remember it just takes one or two situations for them to shut the door down on us. Even when it comes down to Justin Bieber, people are so afraid that they're going to lose their checks, they're not going to check him. And simply say, do you remember how long it took for you to get here? Do you want to stay here? So if you want to stay here, these are the things that you got to do in order to stay here. Because you serve as a role model for the many million followers that you have. And so when you start to do the negative, you're going to shut down the support of the parents, which shuts down the support of your fan base.
That's right.
We got to begin to raise our young artists and keep them in mind. It's even when it comes down to selecting managers. You know, this is called the business of music. So the business must come first. I don't believe necessarily in contracts initially. I believe in courtships. I believe in getting a chance to know someone, to trust or not to trust, to see what they can do. And if they are doing things satisfactory, then I want to get into an engagement. Then I'm going to give them the time to see and to earn their money and to help me to earn my money and to give me insights about things that I don't know about. But I have to first understand what I'm hiring, who I'm hiring, and what it is that I want them to do. Once they have satisfied that, then I want to get married. That's when I want to sign a contract.
That's right.
I want to investigate and take time to understand maybe I need to not use a manager initially. Maybe I need to go and get a lawyer, a young kid that is coming out of law school that needs a chance to break into the entertainment or the music industry, and maybe I need to let them represent me as opposed to an established lawyer. And sometimes you can get that established lawyer that believes in you and that's willing to work with you and give you the who, what's, the whens, the wheres, and the whys of how to channel your career. But these are the kinds of steps that I find to be very important instead of signing a 5 or 6 year agreement with people taking percentages of your dollars and cents when it comes down to your writing, when it comes down to your performance, to your royalties. If you're not clear to understand what this agreement is about, I always say go to someone and say break it down to a third grade level so that I'm able to comprehend it, because you want to be responsible to that person that you signed this agreement with. And you got to be careful of production deals.
That's right.
You have to know who you're going to bed with.
Indeed.
And you have to know what kind of relationship that is being brought your way. So that means that you got to read and understand. You have to understand the job of a manager, understand the job of a business manager, of your agent, of everyone that you selected to be a part of your team. And you got to leave your friends, because if you take the word friend and you split it in the middle, you got an N. You don't need friends to be a part of your crew. Because these things that when you bring these friends along, what you got is called recoupables. No one's giving you anything. You're paying for everything. So you want to make sure that the people that you have in your camp have a job and a responsibility, which makes sense, and not just having the guy next door to be your manager and he's doing no just to you or for you.
Indeed. Let me ask you this. Do you feel like today's artists, compared to, a lot of the names that you mentioned as far as the people that you've had a hand in their careers, I mean, it kind of spans a good handful of decades as far as extended success. Do you feel like today's artists actually have ignored not just their own talent, but they've actually took it for granted for the most part? So, in a lot of these days, we do have the opportunity of being, self, entrepreneurship as far as owning your own record label. You can build your record label from scratch and do all the things that you need to do. But when it comes to just the artists themselves, do you feel like they've taken it for granted?
I think that we have taken everything for granted. I think that we want to be stars, and that's a scary thing because if you take that word and spell it backwards, that's what we're doing. I do understand having your own independence. I do understand the importance of wanting to be your own CEO. But before you get to that level, you got to deal with the rudimentary. You got to begin somewhere. And you need to take the time to understand what this business is about. This music industry is gangsta, just like America is gangsta. And they look for those who are totally unaware, and they become gullible. You see, there's a difference in the word ambitious and then ambitious. And a lot of our young people today are more ambitious because they want that deal, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to get that deal. Instead of waiting their time and preparing themselves for that deal, they want to jump into it and become an immediate overnight success. And I have never seen any artist that has become an overnight success. There's been time, there's been a lot of dedication, a lot of devotion, a lot of homework into becoming a success. A success to me is Beyonce. Beyonce started out at 7 or 8 years old. She learned the craft. She understood the time that had to be put into it. She learned her business. She learned how to write songs. She learned how to understand her splits and her dollar and cents. She put in her time. So nobody needs to be jealous of Beyonce. They should be happy for Beyonce because she serves as an excellent example as to what artist development is about.
One of the greatest entertainers we've seen. Agreed.
Yeah, but away from the entertaining, she knew about that business. And what she didn't know about that business, her husband and her father and her team of people around her knew about that business, and they guided her accordingly.
Right.
So this is not a cup of, you know what? This industry is not a cup of instant coffee, and I never like instant coffee. I like brewed coffee. I like something that's going to take time as opposed to giving something that's instant.
Right. Yeah, because you know how it goes with instant, man. That don't last long. That goes in, goes out. I mean, it does.
That's exactly what happens.
It does. That's right. Now, you said earlier about just, the team of people that you work with and developing artists is important because you kind of spotlight, these so-called friends. And, I always kind of feel like this. If no one's not contributing to building a legacy, then those people don't need to be around you, in my opinion. So when it comes to these, there's a whole bunch of men and women on people's quote-unquote teams and things like that or whatever. So, the ones that don't have the guts because of, I'm still, like you said earlier, collecting the check. And, I don't want to tell this person no because if I tell them no, they're going to fire my ass and that's the end. So when it comes to, just knowing as far as on an artist standpoint, I mean, when it begins to the point where that artist doesn't want to hear a no from a person, how does that artist succeed if they can't get that, if that light bulb doesn't turn themselves on?
Listen, at the end of the day, the truth is not on strike with me. If I can't be truthful and honest and direct with you, I don't need to be a part of your team. So I want to earn my money. Don't give me nothing. I've never understood what an opportunity was. I had to create my opportunities. So in a relationship, if I can't give you the kind of counsel that's going to enrich and make your life better, guess what? I'm going to step back. I'm going to lose that little money that you're giving to me. I'm going to let you go on, and I'm going to let you learn by experience. If you don't want to be mentored and you don't want to be guided because you think you know it all, and I don't know anyone that knows it all, you will wind up getting entrapped and believing that the path in which you're taking is the right path. I always tell people, you know what? This is not the land of Oz. You need to click your heels 3 times and come up out of it and have a realization for this is the real world.
Right.
And when you know that this is the real world, you need to trust, like that dollar bill that said, trust in God. That's who you need to trust.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, for me, has a question mark. And once you have secured, I'm secure in my business relationship with you, my eyes are still open.
Right.
But I trust you enough to do what it is that you have aligned yourself to do for me. But when you cannot produce and you're not helping the team, one has to ask the question, why are you here? You know, there are very successful artists with mothers and fathers who are part of their team, and they get totally out of hand, and the mother and father are scared to get cut off.
Right.
Think about it.
Right.
So you can't start raising a child in this industry at 27 years old because it's already made up in their mind as to how they're going to do things.
Right.
You have to start at the beginning, and this is where I think the void and the absence is when we start to talk about those independent labels that are not giving the kind of time of artist development with their artists. Then when they go on and they become successful and you put all your time and your energy into their image and not into the development of the artist, you get a problem in the middle of the project. This is not this is not a part-time job. This is a full-time job. You can't go into the studio and record the record and get a hit and then don't want to go and do publicity and don't want to do promotions and don't want to do this and don't want to do that. And then you want to be selective as to what you want to go to do. I say there is no press that should not be done. Everybody wants to do the big things. No one wants to do the small things. But the small things are your fan base. You know, everyone don't have cable TV, but a lot of them can go to YouTube on the computer. So you have to support every particular arena. You have to support every entity. You know, some of the artists say, no, I don't want to do that. But what I want to do is CNN and I want to do this. It's called paying your dues. And if you remember the people that are supporting you each and every single day, I'm thankful for the fan base to support me because they take care of my mortgage. I'm nobody's fool. And so if I don't want to talk to young kids, I got a problem. And if I don't want to go and do some promotional free things, I got a problem because this is the way I eat. This is the way I begin to brand myself. This is the way people will call on my services. It's called self-promotion. And everything deserves your attention in one form or another.
Game right here by Angelo Ellerbee on the AM Buzz. And you know what? When I'm going to throw a couple of names out there, and you kind of, as a artist development guru, as a person that's been around, you've helped out so many different people. I'm just going to throw a couple of names and or groups out there, and just kind of tell me from a standpoint, not just about them and what you can see or what you would like to see more of these people, but also, you know, I'm going to take it back, too, as far as the fan base of, you know, not just the artists that's being developed, the newer artists, but some of the established fan bases, and the fact that I think in some cases fans take artists for granted as well. I mean, you know, because we blatantly go and illegally download some of the hard work they've put in and this, that, and the other, but you know, let me toss out this group, and you tell me if the potential is still there for this group to be able to do more than what they're doing right now. I mean, even though they're, you know, doing great things, still touring, but let's go out with New Edition. New Edition, you have all 6 members still breathing, still doing what they're doing as far as going on different tours and doing a lot of different stuff, but as a person looking on the outside, is there so much more that they can capitalize themselves in media development, in artist development still, for a group that's been around 30 years?
Well, you know, it's just like I said earlier to you, is that you can't start raising a child at 30 years old or 27 years old. But what you can do is become sensitive to the trial or the tribulation of the group individually and individually as well as collectively. And I do think before we go and say that we are a group, we need to deal with some issues. And these issues need to have some kind of counseling and some kind of guidance. Because at the end of the day, what happens is that the one individual that may cause the incident, everybody in the world is affected by the incident, or everyone in that group is affected by whatever the trial or the tribulation is. I think that we have to have the right to vote within groups. if this person is not a part of this group and working towards the better advancement of this group, still at a return. See, the key thing is that my spiritual being, my God, allows me to have an understanding that he gives me chances to get it together all over again. And I do think that New Edition and so many other groups are making a return, get the opportunity for a chance. But before you take that chance, you need to understand why you're getting another chance. Understand the trial, the tribulation, and the error that was made. And how can we collectively, in our later years, deal with this so that when we go out and we take on the contractual understanding for a tour, we have no fallacies. Mm-hmm. And that's the collective side of it all.
Right.
And we have to get managers in our lives. I got to get managers in our lives that are not just percentage takers, and managers that are not just going to sit up and govern accordingly to the artist, versus having the kind of conversation, the kind of counseling that is going to allow them to grow and to prosper.
Amen to that.
And I know that people are saying, oh, this man is talking, he's talking all out of his head. But at the end of the day, you can become much more lucrative when you have a product that you can be somewhat assured on. I don't think you can always be definite of the product, but you can be 60% or 70% that this product is going to go and do what he or she is supposed to do to remain, to continue with the kind of fan base that's going to support them. So I do think that the beginning is the beginning. And I do think before we go to surge out there and simply say we're going to do this,
right,
we need to have a meeting of the minds to understand the responsibility of what it's going to take to do this.
No
and
doubt.
then we must become committed. We got to become committed to each other, and then more importantly to ourselves, to make sure that we keep up on our commitment. Punctuality, rehearsals, all those things are important. And then we need to go into counseling. Maybe it's not time for you to go on the tour. Maybe you need to get that together. You need to get those demons up out of your soul.
Right.
Because you're hurting not just yourself, you're hurting your family, and then you're hurting the group that you're supposed to be a part of.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you're kickstarting a lot of your
second chance.
Exactly. You sound like you're kickstarting a lot of your own personal Angelo Ellerbee's 3 A's, right? Which is agenda, appearance, and attitude. Like when you kind of group it all together. I did my homework on you too, man.
Oh, I
know your 3 A's.
I think that I think that that's the only way you graduate, or you get a promotion. I don't think it's about a social promotion. I think it's about a promotion. And I think that we need to get promoted to the next level of our careers. And if we take on that, the head to say that I'm the manager, you see, I'm the commodity.
That's right.
I can destroy my commodity. But why would I want to destroy it? I would only want to enhance it. I would want to make it better.
Mm-hmm. And you also have a quote saying that talent must. You have a quote saying talent must make the grade with media outlets. When approaching media, talent must be prepared to share and sell themselves as a business entity. That's true. True facts.
Absolutely.
By Angelo Ellerbee.
Let me just deal with this. Yeah, let me just deal with this first. You know, I don't know what it is with our people. Our people will not become supportive of each other. And what I mean by that, I see so many established artists that will not reach back to black media. They will not hire a black publicist. They would want to go with the Stormbergs and the Bloombergs and the Keybirds versus trying to go to an African-American firm. I always said, is it that black people or people of color don't make mistakes? Yes, we make mistakes, but so do they. Why is it that the head is on your shoulder to have representation by someone that maybe you believe that has that connect? But if you give me the chance because of my alignment with you, I get the chance too. But we have to fight each and every single day to get that chance, and our own people will not come with us on that ride of getting the chance. We can
Right.
we can empower and make a difference when we're able to be a part of each other's growth.
Indeed, and that's definitely lacking. The next person, I mentioned a group that's been around 30 years, and, the next one I want to mention is young Miguel, and I'm pretty sure you heard about Miguel and his extended leg drop on a couple of ladies at, he jumped over a crowd and knocked out two ladies literally at the MTV Video Awards. And how would you help repair some of the damage that was done on that night?
Well, I just believe that, again, it takes that team that's around you. And I'm sure there were many rehearsals, or if it was a rehearsal, and they were told, and I'm sure they informed you that there would be people standing there. There are some heroic things that we want to take to be different and innovative and edgy with our performances, but we cannot take our fans and ruin them. I do think that it becomes very important that our team of people around us say, no, man, I wouldn't try to do that leap. I would try to maybe come out in the audience, but don't try to do that leap because you may get hurt or somebody else may get hurt. Exactly. I believe in going back to the scene of the accident. An apology is an apology, but that's something that should have not taken place. And I think, again, the body of people that are around him should have simply said, that is something that you should not do. And I think now we're talking about him being sued or whatever the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
I think that experience becomes the best teacher. I think that he will never try or attempt anything like that again. Unfortunately, I don't think that it has damaged his appeal and his fan base. I think he will now start to think about what it is that he has to do in order to mesmerize his audience, and that he's not going to flip and endanger the lives of his audience. So I don't look at it as being this. I think it was just careless, but I don't think that it was so much that it deserves a great deal of damage control. Right.
I mean, aside from the butt of 100 million jokes and YouTube sensations and things like that, I mean, I kind of feel like this. I mean, it will pass over once the initial of this whole thing kind of comes to pass. Actually, I think it kind of has now for the most part. It's not as discussed as it was, beforehand. But, I always feel like this, especially when it comes to certain things, and you hit the nail on the head. Like anything that has an opportunity of failing real bad, because he probably wouldn't even had to hit both those legs. He could have fell and probably broke his leg, and that would have been probably the end of maybe a couple of tours that he was trying to do. So, a lot, you have to really think about it as an artist, right? You have to think really long and hard about what you're doing before you do it, because, it has a very, very bad way of ending bad. And it will mess up your money. It will mess up your appeal to certain fan bases, and even new fan bases who didn't know you until now is probably going to look at you and, okay, that's the guy that drop-kicked a couple of females. So,
yeah, but you know what, man? These are some of the things that I believe that artist development comes to your rescue on. And you got to understand, there is no perfect artist. Everyone has brought drama to their careers. It's how you choose to deal with it. And what I like about him, he didn't run from it. He's dealing with it in the way that he chooses to deal with it. And the media is going to be the media. If that didn't happen, they would have nothing to write about. There would have been the talk of nothing. They truly wouldn't have said if he did an exceptional job, he did an exceptional job. It gave them controversy. That's what we sell. It's a part of the package, like it or not.
Right.
But the most important thing is that he learned from it.
Agreed. And you can actually grab Angelo Ellerbee if you are interested in dealing with this guy on any level as far as artist representation for all the people out there doing anything on an artist level that's trying to build a legacy, and you need some help, and you kind of feel like, okay, well, you know what, I am a humble guy or a girl, and I need to kind of figure out what I need to do as far as growth. you can definitely contact this guy. You can do area code 201-224-6570. You can also send an email at inquiries, INQURIES, at dxxnyc.com. Angelo Ellerbee is our guest on the AM Buzz. And a couple of quick questions before we let you go is when it comes down to just the overall social media grind and the growth of like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all this stuff, and as if you're an artist, is there, if you're developing, just a little sneak peek for people out there that's actually doing music or in this business, what would you recommend when it comes to social media? Because sometimes, you know, some things that people can say on Twitter can turn into a not so good thing as well.
Well, I am one to support what is the current method of communications with regards to social media. I think that we have to be careful of what we go to say, and we must think about it, write about it before we input it. We have to make sense out of what it is that we're trying to convey because it can't be erased. It's going to be in the minds of people forever, so we have to be very, very careful. I do think that it's another form of self-promotion in the artist or the talent becoming their own PR person. But in that, you have to be very, very careful about what it is that you comment on and what you write about. You know, back in the day, it was really important that an artist stayed in their lane, that they talked about music. I don't believe that you should bring conflict because it gets mixed up with your music. Wait till you get to a certain stage in your career where people are going to support you on your social and political issues. Deal with the music for now. Deal with understanding the business of music. Don't get into controversy. Don't get into giving somebody your opinion because opinions are not buying your records. You want to be controversial because you believe being controversial is going to sell records. But you got to understand that controversy also will backfire on you, and it can destroy you. So you got to be very careful what you communicate and how you communicate it and who you direct it to.
Right. And you kind of segue into my next question I was going to ask you, too, because we all know, like, when it comes to different things as far as media, there's a lot of publicity stunts that will and still take place. Remember, it used to be the sex tapes. Like, that used to be one of those different kind of taboo things that people used to float around and doing it. And now people tend to want to get arrested nowadays, you know, a.k.a. 2 Chainz in California with having a bag of weed at the LAX or whatever the case may be. So when I say publicity stunts, a lot of people are doing or trying to find creative ways to stay in the media, but that way is not a good way, correct?
Well, I do think, yes, you're 100% correct. I do think, again, I'm going to go back to your team of people. If those are the tactics that you have to use in order to embrace and bring to your followers, not a smart way of thinking. Why do we want to bring on the negative? We want to bring on the positive. And you know damn well going to the airport with marijuana stuck in your suitcase, stuck on your person, is going to bring some kind of attention to you.
Right.
And it's going to stop you from making dollars and cents. It's going to stop you from your endorsements. It's going to stop you from getting on the plane. It's going to stop you from making your date and making your money. So if that is the kind of PR strategies that your publicist and your team has come up with, you need to have a staff meeting. And in the staff meeting, you need to get rid of those people who are not supportive of your positive direction and your positive impact and input to your fan base. Come on, man. It's not a game. This is not a game. I mean, you can come up with things that are not going to be detrimental, that is going to not hurt your brand. We're trying to brand people today. You know, it was at a time where hip hop recording artists had a lack of respect and concern for the boardroom. Today, we're dealing with a hip-hop community that is intelligent, that's motivated, that's going into boardrooms with suits and ties on and having good conversation, signing major deals, innovative ideas being brought by corporations coming from the hip-hop community. Corporations are now wanting to get in the same sheets with that hip-hop recording artist because they believe in them. If you take Jay-Z and you take Sean Puffy Combs and you see that those are masterminds. They understood the importance of being an artist and never surrendering where they were coming from, but also understanding that they lived in America. And in order to be a part of the American system and be respected by the American system, you got to make some change.
Indeed.
And you have to have a team of people.
No, I was going to say it's all about building a legacy, and what you just said, just to add on to what you're saying, it's all about not just having that team, but also having that team that if that team member isn't trying to build a legacy in addition to what you're trying to build as well.
Write a lyric and say, get away.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, that to me it's simple. It's simple. I can look at you or you can look at me, or you can look at anybody that's working their ass off trying to do things not just for themselves, but for building a legacy with other people. You look at that, hey, you know what? I want to deal with that person just because I see where their head's at. I see where they're going. And a lot of people tend to not want to work for the legacy now. They're trying to work for right now. And that's never going to work. It's never going to work. Because if you don't put enough time in trying to build something for other people to be remembered as well, musically as well. If you put out a song, you want to make sure that you put out the best song that's going to be able to withstand the test of time. That's the way I see it.
I agree. I totally agree.
Indeed.
I totally
Angelo
agree.
Ellerbee, you can be able to find him on, he's going to eventually get better on Twitter. If y'all out there listening now, you can go to DXXNYC on Twitter right now. Make sure you hit my man up. You can also make sure you email this guy. If you are an artist and you want to be represented, make sure you call the number, area code 201-224-6570, and email at inquiries@dxxnyc.com. And my man, Mr. Angelo Ellerbee, I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me, man. We need to do more of this.
Hey, man, I listen. I enjoyed it, and anytime you need me, I'm here, man. I'm but a telephone call away.
Hey, and I know this. And again, I want to thank you for inspiring my ass on many different occasions, and just continue to do all the things that you do, because when I hear you talk and I hear how passionate that you are about not just trying to help yourself, of course, but the fact that you want to help others and help them grow to become better, not just artists, but better people too. I mean, we get that, and I get that every time I hear what you got to say, because you got a lot of good knowledge. So I want to thank you as well, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you, man.
And
I want you to keep
Angelo
doing what you're doing. I want your fan base to keep supporting you, man.
Indeed. And we got it, man. Come on. Anything that you need to, I am a phone call away as well.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the #1 radio station for the people.